Rev up your engines.
Kilmer, come out with your hands up.
Okay, you got me.
Please approach the vehicle.
Well, I guess my past has finally caught up to me, but you might try one of these interceptors. As you can see here, this one's only got like 89,000 miles, but as we look on the hour meter, as you can see, it has 21,375 hours of idling. So it idled an awful lot. You see the police cars sitting there. Usually they pop the hood a little bit to get better cooling. They idle a lot. Make sure you look at that when you buy one, because that puts a lot of wear and tear on the car. It's a 4.6 liter Ford V8, well-made engine. It's not really burning any oil. You can see it's a modern engine, right? It's got overhead cams. It doesn't have a stinking timing belt. It's got a timing chain. These are well-made engines. Now, he recently bought it from a used car lot for $4,500. Of course, low mileage, that's not bad at all. A lot of idling miles, but it doesn't seem to bother the engine at all. It's not burning any oil. It doesn't overheat. And as we look under it, these are Panther bodies, so they're full frame. You look at one of these, you want to look at the frame, and look at this frame. Solid as a rock. Just a little superficial rust, but it is solid as a rock. You see a rusted frame? Run away. Now, he knew it was a Kentucky car. It was a Kentucky security car. Rust isn't that big of a deal. And even though it's old, as he shows me on his paper, he's averaging about 21 miles a gallon. Mind you, that's about 3/4 highway and 1/4 driving in town. They're not that bad on gas mileage on a highway. He's not going overboard. He took the light bar and he took the light off, the spotlight on the front, because his employer doesn't want him looking like a police car. But he did keep the back. But he left it so they can let themselves out. Now that you don't want. The original wheels with the little plastic chrome hubcap on it. These are known for our ginormous trunks. Yes, you can fit lots of things in these trunks. They have all kinds of room in them. And as you can see here, this is a flex fuel vehicle. Now, he's never put E85 in it. On these, all the customers I had that used the E85, they would lose 25% of their gas mileage. And you will find that it doesn't cost 25% less than gasoline. So economically, it doesn't make sense. And really, as cars get older, the flex fuel system uses all kinds of sensors and special parts. Do you really think those systems are going to work all that well? And my answer to that is they really don't, unless you stick to one or the other. I had viewers that lived in the Corn Belt in the Midwest, and they want to support their own farms. They buy a lot of E85 ethanol, and they run them all the time on it. If they've run out all the time, the vehicle gets used to it, the computer system is used to it, and they can run perfectly fine, although they get worse gas mileage. The ethanol is a cleaner burning fuel, although it has less energy in it. So, if you are thinking about buying one of these, my advice is stick to regular gasoline. You're buying an old used car, you put that ethanol in, who knows what's going to happen? And realize this. You're running gasoline. Gasoline has a little water in it. It's going to hurt it much. Won't get sucked into the system. But as soon as you put E85 into an old gas tank that has water in it, the water immediately mixes with the ethanol. And then boom, it will run like crap. So pretend it isn't a flex fuel if you buy one used, unless it was a Midwestern security car and they always ran it on E85. It's a big difference. Like I said, you don't care if it ran out all the time. You don't mind the worst gas mileage, go right ahead, but don't switch back and forth. If you don't know the history, just use regular gasoline. They never have problems running on regular gasoline. See, the paint's faded. Well, you know, cars sit in the sun idling, guess what? The paint fades. Notice where it's faded less, the sun doesn't shine. You get inside, of course, it's got cloth seats. The police aren't going to have leather seats. And it's got a lot of things you can toy with, horns, start it up. Starts up, sounds strong. You would have much more room in the back seat if you took out the divider, but that's the point of this car. It's a police interceptor. One basic regular AM FM radio. That's it, baby. Now, as you see, the AC's still working, but he says it only works for 10 minutes, so that needs a little bit of work. Not surprising. If this thing sat for all those thousands of hours just idling, the air conditioning has had the heck beat out of it. It probably is going to need a new compressor because it just sat all that time and realized this is a more modern car, so it doesn't have a fan clutch. It's got an electric fan motor, but when you're going 60 miles an hour, you get a lot more wind cooling the air conditioning system. When you're just idling, the fan alone it's going to run a little higher pressure for the AC system. Now, it does have a somewhat bigger AC condenser. Being a police unit, all the miles it hit idling, it's still blown cold. I'm guessing the compressor's going out. The clutch is probably wearing, but take my advice. Don't ever replace an AC clutch on a compressor. Replace the whole thing. The clutch wears out because the compressor's getting old. It strains it too much. If you fix with a brand new clutch, the compressor's still old and it will wear the new clutch out, or sometimes within a week or two, the compressor will finally fail, and then you wasted your money on a clutch. Buy the clutch compressor as an assembly. Idle smooth, doesn't have any particular vibrations on it. So let's take it for a spin. There's idling hours on it, but it's still idle smooth. Maybe that's one of the reasons that idle's so smooth. It's idled for many thousands of hours and it must like it. It's just idled so long, but only has 89,000 miles. The transmission shows that. The transmission still shifts really smooth because it's only got 89,000 miles on it. Doesn't do anything, just sitting there idling. It's not working at all. And basically, it's still got a real tight suspension system on it. Because again, it's only 89,000 miles of driving. Sitting idling does not wear out your suspension system at all. So here comes the moment you're waiting for on Tobacco Road. We're headed to our little drag strip, and we'll come to a stop. Wait till people kind of get out of the way here. Here we go. Now it gets up and goes. It's not super fast takeoff, but it's got good passing speed. Step on it, it kicks up and down. And this was a security guard car, so, you know, it didn't have a bunch of soup ups on it to make it really fly. So when you floor it, to accelerate, now it kicked down and got going. You can feel it now. It's a heavy car, so takeoff from zero, you know, leaves a little bit to be desired, but once you get going and you got to take off, it's got that V8 torque to make it go. And that transmission, it's still got a lot left to it. You can see it's smooth, it's not jerky. That's a big reason the police always like V8 engines. They got that grunt torque when they need to chase after somebody. So here the name Interceptor really fits, because it's not a drag race car, but once you're going and you got to intercept somebody, it'll take off and go. And with the AC on, you can see it still runs at a really good temperature. It's not overheating. Now realize with the windows rolled down, hey, this is a highway cruising car. Hey, someone should turn one into a convertible. They could have a police interceptor convertible. Now that would be cool. And you can tell driving it around, you don't hear the rear end howling, you don't hear your bearings going out. It's only got 88,000 miles on it. So all that stuff isn't worn. You get a really hard beaten one by the police driving. It's been wrecked 1,000 times. You can hear all kinds of noises. The rear end will be whining, the bearings will be worn. You don't want to buy one of those. But if you find one like this, that's only got 88,000 miles and was a security guard car, hey, in this case, buying a cop car can be a fun deal, and still he's using it as regular transportation. I mean, he gets 21 miles a gallon driving around. It's smooth, goes down the road. You can have a lot of fun with one of these things for a little bit of money. I mean, it gets better gas mileage than that brand new Toyota Tundra with the V6 that I checked out the other day, so it's not horrible gas mileage. Just make sure if you look at one of these, the frame's not rotten. That's a walk away. Make sure that the tranny shift's good and you don't hear any howling in the rear end. It means it's all worn out. But if you find one like this that was a security guard car, they're very cheap to insure too as they're older. Just don't get carried away and put light bars and pretend you're a policeman, because then you might end up in the back seat of a real police car for impersonating an officer. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Pick-a-Brack says, help me with my truck before I waste more money with a mechanic. I got an 03 Hummer H2 with 102,000 miles. All kinds of issues. I've had the oxygen sensors, all 4 chains, starter, alternator, battery, passenger side exhaust manifold, muffler, fuel pump, complete tune-ups, and it still is running poorly, sluggish. Of all the Hummers, the H2s, if you got a good one, were the best ones. The first ones are big and clunky. The H3s were piles of crap made in Shreveport, Louisiana, but the H2s weren't bad vehicles. It's 10 years old. And here's something that I see happen all the time with them, and you want to check it out. The wiring harness, especially to the fuel injectors, often goes bad. My neighbor's got one, and he had a bunch of guys look at it, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong. All it was the wiring harness to the fuel injectors not firing correctly. And it's not that expensive, the parts. They just plug off, they plug in. Replace the wiring harness to the fuel injectors first. And you might find that'll fix your whole thing. It was just cheaply made thin wires, and the heat of the engine over time builds up and the wires start to fray, and then they short out, and then they don't work right. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.